Terry,
we can still talk
I
over
can
it.
assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all.
I'm definitely going to pull some
I've
of
been
this.
a Navy SEAL for 36 years, but it all began when I left UT for basic SEAL training in Coronado, California. Basic SEAL training is 6 months of long, torturous runs in the soft sand, midnight swims in the cold water off San Diego, obstacle courses, unending calisthenics, days without sleep, and always being cold, wet, and miserable. It is 6 months of being constantly harassed by professionally trained warriors who seek to find the weak of mind and body and eliminate them from ever becoming a Navy SEAL. But the training also seeks to find those students who can lead in an environment of constant stress, chaos, failure, and hardships. To me, basic SEAL training was a lifetime of challenges crammed into 6 months. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all...
What happened?
Sorry. That was my mess up. I'm trying to pull the video up so Steve can watch it and have something to look at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to work. So, okay, we'll just go back to what we were doing. Sorry about that. I'm retarded. I don't want you to do that. Go away. There we go. Okay.
The corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right.
I say that to
By
my son.
chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
I've seen that before, and I didn't
During SEAL
have the
training,
context for it.
During training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy.
This part's very
Every day,
relatable.
your boat crew
Just
forms
listen.
up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers.
Amen.
Several times a week, the instructors would line up the class and do a uniform inspection. It was exceptionally thorough. Your hat had to be perfectly starched, your uniform immaculately pressed, your belt buckle shiny and void of any smudges. But it seemed that no matter how much effort you put into starching your hat or pressing your uniform or polishing your belt buckle, it just wasn't good enough. The instructors would find something wrong. For failing the uniform inspection, the student had to run, fully clothed, into the surf zone, then wet from head to toe, roll around on the beach until every part of your body was covered with sand. The effect was known as a sugar cookie. You stayed in the uniform the rest of the day, cold, wet, and sandy. There were many a student who just couldn't accept the fact that all their efforts were in vain, that no matter how hard they tried to get the uniform right, it went unappreciated. Those students didn't make it through training. Those students didn't understand the purpose of the drill. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to have a perfect uniform. The instructors weren't going to allow it. Sometimes, no matter how well you prepare or how well you perform, you still end up as a sugar cookie. It's just the way life is sometimes. If you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. Every day during training,
That's big
you were
advice, man.
challenged with multiple physical events, long runs, long swims, obstacle courses, hours of calisthenics, something designed to test your mettle. Every event had standards, times you had to meet. If you failed to meet those times, those standards, your name was posted on a list, and at the end of the day, those on the list were invited to a circus. A circus was 2 hours of additional calisthenics, designed to wear you down, to break your spirit, to force you to quit. No one wanted a circus. A circus meant that for that day, you didn't measure up. A circus meant more fatigue, and more fatigue meant that the following day would be more difficult, and more circuses were likely. But at some time during SEAL training, everyone made the circus list. But an interesting thing happened to those who were constantly on the list. Over time, those students who did 2 hours of extra calisthenics got stronger and stronger. The pain of the circuses built inner strength and physical resiliency. Life is filled with circuses. You will fail. You will likely fail often. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At times, it will test you to your very core. But if you want to change the world, don't be afraid of the circuses. At least twice a week, the trainees were required to run the obstacle course. The obstacle course contained 25 obstacles, including a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot cargo net, a barbed wire crawl, to name a few. But the most challenging obstacle was the slide for life. It had a 3-level, 30-foot tower at one end and a 1-level tower at the other. In between was a 200-foot-long rope. You had to climb the 3-tiered tower, and once at the top, you grabbed the rope, swung underneath the rope, and pulled yourself hand over hand until you got to the other end. The record for the obstacle course had stood for years when my class began in 1977. The record seemed unbeatable until one day a student decided to go down the slide for life head first. Instead of swinging his body underneath the rope and inching his way down, he bravely mounted the top of the rope and thrust himself forward. It was a dangerous move, seemingly foolish and fraught with risk. Failure could mean injury and being dropped from the course. Without hesitation, the student slid down the rope perilously fast. Instead of several minutes, it only took him half that time. And by the end of the course, he had broken the record. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacles head first. During the land warfare phase of training, the students are flown out to San Clemente Island, which lies off the coast of San Diego. The waters off San Clemente are a breeding ground for the great white sharks. To pass SEAL training, there are a series of long swims that must be completed. One is the night swim. Before the swim, the instructors joyfully brief the students on all the species of sharks that inhabit the waters off San Clemente. They assure you, however, that no student has ever been eaten by a shark, at least not that they can remember. But you are also taught that if a shark begins to circle your position, stand your ground. Do not swim away. Do not act afraid. And if the shark, hungry for a midnight snack, darts towards you, then summons up all your strength and punch him in the snout, and he will turn and swim away. There are a lot of sharks in the world. If you hope to complete the swim, you will have to deal with them. So if you want to change the world, don't back down from the sharks. As Navy SEALs, one of our jobs is to conduct underwater attacks against enemy shipping. We practice this technique extensively during training. The ship attack mission is where a pair of SEAL divers is dropped off outside an enemy harbor and then swims well over 2 miles underwater, using nothing but a depth gauge and a compass to get to the target. During the entire swim, even well below the surface, there is some light that comes through. It is comforting to know that there is open water above you. But as you approach the ship, which is tied to a pier, the light begins to fade. The steel structure of the ship blocks the moonlight. It blocks the surrounding street lamps. It blocks all ambient light. To be successful in your mission, you have to swim under the ship and find the keel, the center line, and the deepest part of the ship. This is your objective. But the keel is also the darkest part of the ship, where you cannot see your hand in front of your face, where the noise from the ship's machinery is deafening, and where it gets to be easily disoriented, and you can fail. Every SEAL knows that under the keel, at that darkest moment of the mission, is a time when you need to be calm, when you must be calm, when you must be composed, when all your tactical skills, your physical power, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. The 9th week of training is referred to as Hell Week. It is 6 days of no sleep, constant physical and mental harassment, and one special day at the Mud Flats. The Mud Flats are an area between San Diego and Tijuana where the water runs off and creates the Tijuana Sloughs, a swampy patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. It is on Wednesday of Hell Week that you paddle down to the Mud Flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive this freezing cold, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure to quit from the instructors. As the sun began to set that Wednesday evening, my training class, having committed some egregious infraction of the rules, was ordered into the mud. The mud consumed each man till there was nothing visible but our heads. The instructors told us we could leave the mud if only 5 men would quit. Only 5 men, just 5 men, and we could get out of the oppressive cold. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. It was still over 8 hours till the sun came up. 8 more hours of bone-chilling cold. The chattering teeth and the shivering moans of the trainees were so loud, it was hard to hear anything. And then one voice began to echo through the night. One voice raised in song. The song was terribly out of tune, but sung with great enthusiasm. One voice became 2, and 2 became 3, and before long, everyone in the class was singing. The instructors threatened us with more time in the mud if we kept up the singing, but the singing persisted. And somehow the mud seemed a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person, a Washington, a Lincoln, King, Mandela, and even a young girl from Pakistan, Malala. One person can change the world by giving people hope. So if you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. To the class of 2014, you are moments away from graduating, moments away from beginning your journey through life, moments away from starting to change the world for the better. It will not be easy, but you are the class of 2014, the class that can affect the lives of 800 million people in the next century. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. Thank you very much. Hook 'em horns.
What a guy. I've seen clips of that. Just that's funny. Yeah, I've seen a few clips of that, but I've never seen the whole deal. Didn't even really know where to look for it.
Yeah, I've probably seen that, man, I don't know, 50 times or so. It's there's quite a few. Well, there's obviously a pile of life lessons, but there's some really relatable stuff from that speech that you can take out of it and apply, to our job specifically, and it still makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the sugar cookie one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can be doing everything right and putting in the effort and take a L. Like something can happen that's outside of your control.
Absolutely. There's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of he was I don't want to get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was Admiral McCraven, and he served for a long time in the Navy and that sort of thing. He gave you a little bit of a bio, but there's some longer podcasts with him on it. He goes into a lot more detail about what it is that he did and stuff like that. Very incredibly compelling, well-spoken human being, but most leaders of a position or that have held a position like he has and stuff like that, you'll notice that consistently. They are amazing communicators. Dude, they can. Look at your message. Your post from this morning on the Primary Complete page. That ability to communicate and the importance of communication. I'd love to get just a take from you real quick on how do you feel important, or what do you feel is the importance of communication when it comes to the reflection of a leader, like an actual. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How that makes an impact.
Yeah. The first part is I didn't know his background, like his communication skill. Communicated and shared with me that I could trust the message he was delivering.
Right.
Like I didn't check his ID. I didn't check his resume. I didn't know anything until this moment. I kind of felt bad about that. Like I just saw the message. I'm like, that's good.
That's really good. Yeah.
I made it a post and put it up because I liked it and I felt like other people would gain the same benefit. I tagged the department just to make sure everybody could see it because I felt good about it,
Sure.
So, that ability to communicate is a thing that I crave to improve at all the time. I get frustrated. Like I'm not the only person that gets frustrated, so I'm not,
Sure.
That's not a look at me.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. Yeah. It's just, I get frustrated. So hearing some of his comparisons, like the sugar cookie one, it's loud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've heard that from several people, some of the, best leaders that we've been around, whether they're actual in a leadership position in their department or they're just natural leaders and stuff like that.
Functional leader.
That's it. We've heard a lot of that same message and that same ability to be able to communicate. You notice, it might have been Steve Robertson was talking to us about expressing concerns. I think we were talking specifically about training and stuff like that, but he kind of made a statement that I feel certain he probably implements in more spots other than training. But this is, he encouraging the non-officers, the drivers, the firefighters, whoever it may be, to approach their officer, approach their driver, having that line of communication established to where you can approach them and say, hey, can we do this? Or what do you think? I had a different idea when it came to that call. Can I express it to you and see if that would have also been a plausible idea? And stuff like that. Steve was talking about that, and it makes a lot of sense. And you just, you hear him talk, and I think that ability to communicate is probably something we all should work on. I know you constantly work on it. We've had several conversations where you talk about being able to kind of control your emotions and stuff like that, and I'm like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah. The opposite of a car salesman. Like, if I just offended a car salesman, then I'm so sorry. But that cliche rise and fall of like you're really trying to hit somebody's emotion to sell them on something, that's not the way.
Right.
Yeah, like this guy, he wasn't making any sales. He was delivering some very hard-earned wisdom in a calm manner that just gave you that feeling like I can trust what this guy's saying. And then I automatically was relating it to moments in life and events. Yeah, it's communication. Emotions are real. You can feel emotion. You can get angry. I get angry a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. But communicating, you got to be able to pull that emotion to the side. And then, am I venting?
Right.
Vent sessions are valuable.
I agree.
Yeah, I like those. But they're not, nobody's really getting wiser.
Yeah, I think it's important. I do this with Holly too. And I'll kind of tell you how it goes, and then I'll tell you how I question her. But vent sessions, they're important, but I believe they need to be expressed that that's what it is prior to it going in. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. Or at least the person you trust to vent to has the knowledge and understanding and or maybe ability to even ask you, is this a vent session?
Yeah.
When it comes to me and my wife in communication, I take everything personal. Everything.
Yeah.
All the time. Even if it has nothing to do with me. I immediately relate it to what can I do at home or what can I do in my communication to make that easier for her. I'm a fixer. I do that with everybody. I always start thinking on the back end. If there's something, what can I do as an actionable thing to help that situation better? So she would start venting. She would complain about that often. I don't need you to fix anything. I just need you to listen. So I would start asking her, "Is this a vent session?
Yeah.
or are you fussing at me? What are we doing here?" And then she would express it, and it wasn't too long before I could catch on. But vent sessions are pretty necessary. You can't keep all that negative anger bottled up inside of you.
No, and if you're on the other side of a vent session, it can be fun.
Yeah.
Like if hey, I'm not supposed to be trying to help. They need to get this out. You can kind of sit back and enjoy it. It's a vent session is a necessary part of processing.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll vent on something, and then once I hear the values I've placed on things, then at the end of it, I usually shift those at least a little.
Yeah, I still use them to this day, and I've mentioned it before on the show that Captain Turner is my favorite when it comes to work-related stuff. And we work in the same building, so he's right there. I can walk in his office, and it doesn't almost matter if he's even doing anything. I can slam that door behind me and straight get after it. And then we get done. He's like, "You done?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Yep." And then you just, you know what I'm saying? He'll sit right there and listen to every stitch of it. He'll tell you if you're being dumb, that's pretty stupid, or he'll tell you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value in having that trustworthy person as well. How big do you think communication is when it comes to explaining things, like explaining a decision that is made? Just to go on what your post was on Instagram this morning for the show. How important do you believe that is, being able to explain it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, in the post, the guy talks about if you're the leader making a decision, there's that cliche, like you don't have to explain your decision.
I think as parents, we do that a lot.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the adult. How many times have you heard that?
Oh, yeah.
You'll just be in a restaurant and hear an interaction going
Yeah.
on, and you're like, you'll cringe because a little explanation can just smooth out ruffled feathers. Yeah, I agreed with that post that even so, if I ask a question or get instructed something, if there's no explanation, then it's up to me to try to figure out, like, what's the goal? Why are we doing this? You know, sometimes in a work environment, the why, there's not enough time for a why. You know, like on a fire ground,
Right.
yeah, you can't just sit there and why.
That's right.
But let's be honest, man, the fire ground's not more than a few percent of our
1%, dog. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was trying to leave room there for hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very short percentage. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
So that why, I automatically assume if you didn't give a why, then especially the tone, like this is a communication conversation. If your tone is shit and you're hiding your why, and I already have other reasons not to trust you,
Good luck winning that one.
good luck winning
Yeah.
that one. Yeah. That's why reputation is so important. Like, if you expect to get any kind of grace hiding your why, you better be a Captain Turner.
Yeah. No doubt.
Captain Turner could come in here right now, slam the door behind him, and vent to us or give us something with no why, and just say, "Trust me."
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't need the why there. I almost wonder if through saying this, am I discovering that the why is more important the less trust you have? I don't know if that's a fair comparison or not.
I think it may be, though. I mean, if you haven't established enough trust in the people you're presenting the idea to, maybe we should draw some, I don't know, maybe try to paint an audio picture here. So just think of a business manager in our world. Let's think of let's go company officer.
Okay.
So company officer speaking to, in our case, two other folks, right? So if the trust is not established in that there's no need to express the why, then I think you're fine as long as that trust is there. And they'll ask why if it's appropriate, like if the timing's appropriate and whatnot. But if you have none of that, they're always going to question you. Now, whether or not they express it to you is probably, I don't know, maybe 50-50. And then the rest, they're just not going to say anything, but they're going to chat amongst themselves.
Yeah.
So,
You know what I appreciate about the more senior guys like your Joey or Chambliss or
Yeah.
some of those, they'll ask, "What's the goal?"
Yep.
So it's not really give me your why. It's a fair question. Like, what's the outcome or what's the desirable?
Yeah.
Like,
The
what are we?
purpose.
Yeah. So it's a way of asking why without asking it.
Yeah, that's a good example. You know, last week or week before, we were burning at the college and, taking some guys through hose drills and stuff like that. And we were asked to give feedback. And the particular things that we were trying to meet are annual training objectives that we have to do. So part of my feedback was, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of this? Are we checking boxes, or are we also at the same time taking an opportunity to share knowledge, educate? If somebody's improve. If somebody's doing something that maybe we can give them another way and it makes them more proficient, great. But if we're just here to check boxes, then it's pretty hard for me to understand how you can hold a standard when you haven't given somebody the tools they need to meet a standard. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So
I absolutely do. Yeah, and I kind of feel your struggle to put it into words.
yeah,
Because I can feel it. It's like when you get hired, that's not the end. Like,
Right.
You go through the interview, you get the job. That's not the end. Like, there's this big gap between that and then normal training. Why do I expect I hired you with 3 years of experience or 0,
right.
and then 10 years later, if I've done nothing as the department to improve you, and now you have 13 years of experience or 15 or whatever, you don't.
Right.
You don't. You just
You still have 3 or 0 or whatever it may be.
Just repeated 13 times.
Right. That's
Yeah.
right.
It's hard to describe or put into words, but I get it.
I would imagine most people can kind of understand it and
Mm-hmm.
probably catching the drift. But that's also part of that leadership / communication, because I think they tie together. When I was making my notes over here, there's an arrow pointing to both of them,
Yeah.
because I think, they're equally just as important. You can't be an established, respectable leader if you don't have the ability to communicate. And as a leader, you should have the ability to communicate.
It's the most important. Like, you have to have other skills, but if you can't communicate, you're not going to make it.
I agree
Yeah.
completely. Well, you might make it.
Yeah, but not with an honorable outcome.
Agree. I think there's 2 types of people in the world when it comes to people accepting authority. It's either you never express the why. It is the way it is because it is what I said it is. That sort of situation. And to me, that is an okay way to lead things, as long as it's consistently like that. That is always the way it is. If you serve in a position for 10 years or whatever, it better be the same way for 10 years. That's a small percentage of people, human beings, military guys. You'll notice a lot of the military guys, they're fine with that. Like, they don't need explanations per se. When a command or an order comes up from their high level officers, it is what it is because they said it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's, that's one way. And I think as a small percentage of folks that are underneath the leadership can effectively work things out. I think the explanation of why is a lot better for leading a team of people, because then everybody gets involved.
In that military, there's a difference. I'm trying to work my way through this. In that military example, there's the trust might not be for the individual. Like, it might not be a Captain Turner that's given the order, but there's a trust for the process in which that individual got to his position. So the kid that was not popular in high school and got all kinds of built up animosities towards other humans, then finds himself in a position of power and then hides the why. That doesn't have the same as the military dude that went through boot camp and
Steps.
in a very rigid process.
Sure.
So you get an order from whoever in that setting, it's vetted.
Yeah.
Like, that's real. The other is just some like heartbroken individual that found themselves in a position of power that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now they're the people who get to dish out the punishment or whatever. Didn't have much going for them in early years of life. Now they have a lot going for them, and it's like a flex almost, or something like that.
I have this thing. Here's a legit bro question.
Okay.
I deliver or grant this default amount of trust. So if I meet you and we don't have any history, I give you, like, here's half of your potential amount of trust that you could ever earn.
Right.
I'm going to start you out with half, and you can spend it like you want to.
Right.
I'm not the ruler of you, but I just give you half right out of the gate. And that served me well for a long time, but it doesn't serve me well. And so I'm starting to wonder if that's not the right method. But then I hear this guy talk, and he's like, take your sugar cookie. So
Right.
is my gifted amount of trust that's been broken once or twice, do I just take the cookie and move on? You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand what you're trying to say. Bro, I don't know. I would like to think that I'm not a person that holds grudges, because I don't really. My memory is not big enough. I have an awful memory. My memory's not big enough to remember for the most part. But I think maybe often, or it's got to be a quantity-based thing. It has to be. I don't think that giving somebody your trust defaultly. I think as human beings we do that anyway. We don't really have any control over that unless it's something you've exercised to where you just don't trust anybody until they give you a reason to trust them. I don't necessarily think that's a healthy way to go through life. I think we have some of those people, around, but I don't think that's the best way. I like the term he said, where it's respect everybody. I think that's a powerful term. I try to respect every human being, whether I trust them or not. There's levels to things, but I don't think your approach to half is or full trust. Give them full trust. Trust everybody until they give you a reason not to. Would that be reasonable as well? And then you start degrading your trust. You got all my trust, in whatever's reasonable. Now, I'm not going to give you access to my bank account or let you babysit my children. Or, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Give them all of it. And then it progressively gets lower. And then it might not get to zero where you don't just trust that person at all, but you trust them on some things and some things you don't.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. So if we had a...
But that comes from past experiences. It's rooted somewhere. It has to have come from somewhere.
Yeah. If we had a kitchen on the other side of that flag and I baked homemade cookies, chocolate chip, those things are slightly undercooked and they're hot as Hades, and I come and set them in here and we talk about how good they smell and how good they taste. We have also had shitty meals and terrible food. So this is amazing.
Yep.
So I don't know that you can give everybody warm homemade cookies right out of the gate. You know what I mean? Like if you start them out with full trust, you can't go up. Like
no, but they can maintain it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel you.
I think we're essentially saying the same thing. It's just the level of the priorities that you trust them with, or the things that you trust them with, that may favor, that pendulum may swing a little more one way or the other. But that's every human as well. Like, I don't know that you can, I don't know. We're talking about there. I think of so many different examples. I try to compare it to home life, and I try to compare it to work life, and then just friendship on a general scale. There's a lot. I think in order to maybe give a specific opinion, we're going to have to neck it down to different categories. I get it; they all apply differently, but my level of trust with somebody, a complete stranger in a house fire, is completely different than it is with my level of trust with a friend and my vehicle or my wallet or whatever. Hey, I need to go get some stuff. Okay, cool. And slide them my debit card. I think the level of trust is a little different because what it is that you're trusting them in is far different. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to have a default conversation, but then use very specific. Yeah. Like you can extend trust, but like you said, my kids aren't going to your house.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. You may be the best dude on planet Earth, but it's like, I don't know. Yeah. So there's always that possibility.
On the other side of that, if you commit a foul against somebody, if it's just a member of the public, that the consequence might be lower. But if you commit a foul against somebody that has established that communication, trust,
right,
those sting and last a lot longer.
Yeah, I think if the person that you committed the foul against is completely unaware that they did it and you didn't inform them or they didn't realize it and then come to you, then I think that you get a little more degraded because then animosity just sits there and pushes the situation further apart. And odds are probably is more than what it is, right?
It's like a medical infection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cancer.
Yeah.
So,
if caught early.
Yeah, if caught early, I think it can be salvaged for sure. But whoever it is has got to be man enough, and that's both parties, to say something about it.
Yeah.
Hey, you pissed me off.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other person would be like, good, or I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My intention was to do that. But,
mission accomplished.
Damn, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, leadership and communication go hand in hand. Let's talk about communication when it comes to holding a certain standard, like a standard for anything. Let's use hose deployment for this one. Hose lays. Let's use fire trucks. Let's give some context to this one. Maybe it'll keep us from jumping
Can't wait.
So, as a leader, how big is it in communicating in order to hold a standard? Do you still, when it comes to standards, something that it should be upheld, do you believe that gives you a little more room to just be rigid and be like, no? And the reason is because of this standard? Or do you still feel like you have to kind of articulate the standard?
So to hold a standard, it can't just be one that you picked out and presented as this is the standard.
Your standard.
Yes, that's it. You have to build a standard. So the hose loads is a great example. I have hose loads that I love and am very good with. But then I have ones that I do not like. So if somebody tells me that they like a AAA, I just automatically trust them less. You know what I mean? So, and I'll ask why. And, you know, sometimes it's they're easier to load, which I think is weird.
Right.
They're easier to deploy. I don't know.
Maybe for them.
That's right.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with that, and I have people that I still like that like triple loads, but I know why I like the ones that I like, and it's because I've tried all of them enough to know this is the parts that I don't like. Like a triple, I watched it be deployed by another person, and the nozzle went through the loop. So then there was a knot in the line, and I'm like,
that won't work.
that will not work. And this is training. So,
Right.
yeah, without supervision on, you know, there's 3 of us. So if that line gets deployed that way and there's a knot in it and we're trying to advance inside, that's a no-go.
Right.
Yeah, and there's multiple other reasons. I don't like it. But the Minuteman, I can get behind. I like it the way it pays out. You can flake it how you want to. I like the Cleveland because it's amazing. And you set it up at the door and it pops. But the reason I like it, whether you agree or disagree, I've tested it.
Sure.
And I have experience with it. So my standard is within a minute, you should be able to have it flaked out. You're masked up and have called for water and you're waiting to check a pattern. Like seems like a long time. Yeah.
No, it doesn't seem like a long time at all.
No. Yeah.
That's a lot of work in a minute. I get it.
Yeah.
But
Under
you
a
gotta
minute
be-
club.
you got to be good.
Yeah. We did under a minute club and we tried all the loads, and the minute and the Cleveland were far and away. The Cleveland got it. The minute was close enough that I like them. And my point is that standard that you're wanting to hold everybody to, if it's not yours, I don't. It doesn't work.
Agree. It's kind of like maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm having a hard time deciphering between standard and like SOGs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking, should a standard when it comes to hose loads, should it be a written thing, or should it just be left up to however you run the company, who's running the company, if you can get along with the other people on the company, you know, the shifts and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's deviant from what the department recommends. Should that be okay, or should the department say no?
As long as we're running humans on the fire trucks, then it's a firehouse specific thing. You got 3 crews or 4 crews, depending on what kind of department you're in. And if they are in agreement, that hose load is so far away from an SOG,
Right.
you know, like there's too many degrees of separation that, yeah, that's an in the firehouse issue. Many, many things need to remain in the firehouse.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's hierarchy in the firehouse too.
Yeah. I hose loads, that's a great spot to start because it can be used for that example.
Right.
Yeah.
So the standard needs to be built and proven.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. Well, what if on engine 13 you get a new firefighter
Mhm.
and they don't want to use your loads? They want to use something that they found at the academy or something like that. And they still can pull your method faster, can deploy your method faster and more efficiently than they can their own, but they want to do their own. How do you communicate this to them?
We're in a similar situation right now.
Okay.
And the two other firefighters are extending grace, basically like you're new into it and we want you to be comfortable and grow your skill set. So they are both offering they can pull whatever hose load is needed within a percentage of time enough that
Right.
it's okay. So they're extending some grace. I think that after a while, you're going to need to prove why you want, like if you want this one, but it takes everybody 50% longer to flake it out and there's a higher percentage of errors, no matter which one it is. Like if it's one that I like, but it keeps making an error in their flaking process,
Right.
then it's a human. So that's how that one's being handled. And it's communication, talking about it.
Right. 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 I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I'll learn from that.
Yeah, that's
We-
a great example of in-house.
Yeah, we've had several situations like that at 17 too.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the years, there's been quite a few new folks in and out of there, and it's not been such a problem on the truck. But the engine wrap side, I mean, I listen to their conversations and stuff like that, and they'll even bring stuff to me. I don't know why they bring hose stuff to me because I'm probably the worst person to ask about hose loads and whatnot. But
How do you feel about I can't remember, and I'm so sorry to the individual that made this post, but the talk was a new firefighter comes in, and the norm is you're making them clean this and clean that and clean all around
Right.
the firehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't even get around the fire truck. And this person was a company officer, I believe, and they were making the point, everybody else clean. Make sure that line's able to be pulled correctly. Make sure they can catch a hydrant. Make sure they can force a door.
right,
Get the important parts and teach them and show them. Don't go the beat them down route. Make sure they can function inside your circle and your crew. Everybody else can do the job.
right,
Make sure they can, and then get to the cleanest stuff later.
right.
It was a great eye opener for a lot of people. Like,
Yeah, it seems like a good reminder.
mm-hmm.
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, I think we all have been at some point.
I wonder if that's because the level of importance sometimes gets shifted from, the 1%. I think this could be solved if you would just put it into risk, like size it up based off risk. Okay, so high, medium, low, right? The jobs that we need to be the best at are high risk, but don't happen often, right?
Right.
So, and then the low risk ones we do the majority of the time. So, it seems I'm not brilliant for thinking of this. This is I'm sure been thought of probably oftentimes, but putting priority on really getting good at the high risk stuff. So there's less room for error because it does happen less often.
Yeah, but it's important.
You'll forget. I mean, so I think maybe priorities get shifted sometimes. It seems like now with the fire service, the way the training's being run and the responsibility of officers, it's putting it more on the low risk stuff because that's what we have more time to do, right?
Yeah, it's the bulk.
Yeah, I wonder if that's from a leadership, like a chief of a department looking down on that situation. I wonder if they know they're doing that.
The most honorable reason for doing it is what the admiral said about making your bed in the morning. Like, start with the small. So there's an honorable reason. So if you're doing hey, learn how to clean all this stuff, I can see where you're not that doesn't make you a bad person.
Sure.
Your point about the high risk stuff, I think, outweighs the lesson, the able lesson. Wait till later. Still teach the lesson. Do it later. Make sure the nuts and bolts, because that family that their house is about to catch on fire, and
Don't give a damn how well you can mop the floor.
bruh, if your toilet's filthy or spick and span, does not matter. Search, vent, put the fire out.
Right.
Yeah, the toilet brush is not anywhere in those.
I agree
Yeah.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's so difficult about our conversation sometimes. We agree about too much stuff. We're going to find something to fight about.
Next time I'll bring a list.
We're going to have to find something to fight about.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Well, this was fun. Any more things on communication or leadership? God, we've been all over the place.
We have been.
Hopefully, it's been useful.
I'll be honest, man. That few minutes we took to listen to that guy's speech got some fresh thoughts. Some neurons are bouncing around in there. I've been on the side of angry
Yeah.
a good bit for a while, like months.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like being angry. Sometimes it's necessary. Yeah. So the cookie one hit. I'm like, all right, I don't have to stay this way. Yeah, it's a temptation when you're angry to be declarative, like
Sure.
this shall not pass or this will never happen again.
Sure.
So you end up not extending trust to somebody who deserves it or earns it or
Right.
should have the same opportunity. Yeah. There's an answer in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Cool deal, brother.
Nice.
Wrap
We're gonna
it.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Nice. We need like a wrap up music.
I can play something else. There is when the show publishes and is done, when it's through the cutting process, the editing process, and all
Yeah.
that. There is one there.
For some reason, I want to hear it.
Yeah. We'll go out with a bang.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Heard that.
All right.
Appreciate
Bye.
you.